Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Avatar Last Airbender commander with Katara, Waterbending Master. For 1 and a blue, you get a 1-3, where whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. And whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do, discard a card. This doesn't reset when Katara leaves the battlefield and comes back. The experience counters stay even if Katara gets removed from the battlefield. So we have plenty of ways to make sure we can give Katara haste so she can act any turn she comes down. Plenty of instants in this deck to make sure we could counter our opponent's stuff, destroy our opponent's stuff. Maybe just look at the top card of our deck and draw a card to make sure we have more stuff to cast. And just the thing with Katara sometimes with this deck though is you don't always want to cast her turn 2 even if she is a 2-mana commander, because you want to make sure you have something to cast during each of your opponent's turns to make sure that you get all those experience counters, getting all that draw power off of her. But that's just general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Arcane Signet for that little bit of mana. Sometimes it's what you want to cast turn 2 rather than Katara. This way, next time when Katara gets out, you have that 4 mana, 2 mana cast Katara, 1 mana cast your Pongify, a 4 mana cast your Peak. Then attack with Katara, you draw 2, discard 1. Bender's Waterskin, add 1 mana of any color, but its real special ability is untap this artifact during each other player's untap step, allowing us a mana during each of our opponent's turns, allowing us potentially a spell to cast during each of our opponent's turns, giving us that many more experience counters there for Katara. Really fitting for her to really benefit off of this, given her character uses this in the show. Felwar Stone for a little bit of extra mana while we're at it. Icecrown Scepter. When Icecrown Scepter enters, exile an instant with mana value 2 or less from your hand. Potentially a Peak, maybe a Pongify. But you can pay 2, copy that exiled card. If you do, may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. You do cast a spell, so even with Katara's ability, if you use it off of Icecrown Scepter, we do get the benefit off of that with her ability. Lightning Greaves. We said before that Katara benefits off of when she attacks, since the experience counters don't go away. So we want to make sure we have the Lightning Greaves, the Swiftfoot Boots in here to make sure we give her a haste so we get that much draw power off of her. Lotus Petal, in order to make sure we can get Katara out a little bit earlier, to make sure we have that mana to do it. Same thing with Mox Amber. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Maybe this is how you get that extra mana turn you cast Katara. Soul Ring, some additional mana to get some more stuff that we can cast. For our creatures, we don't have many. We have Archmage Emeritus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card, giving us more instants and sorceries to cast, giving us more and more spells to cast during our opponent's turns, meaning more experience counters. Chasm Skulker, whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter onto this card. So if say we're drawing like 6 off of Katara's ability, which is a pretty low amount for most games, I'd say. But you get a 6 +1/+1 counters on Chasm Skulker. Then when he dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on him. So that could be a lot of squids that your opponents don't know what to do with. Alluge to Shoreless Sea, really good card for this deck. First instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn costs blue less to cast. For each land you control with a flood counter on it, you get those flood counters when Alluge enters or attacks. So if you have the boots to put on your fish, that helps us out there. But also having just the 1 mana spells the turn that we cast this, to cast on each of our opponent's turns for free, that's worth it for us. Fairy Mastermind. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card, allowing us a little bit of extra draw power. Flash as well, allowing us to get them out during our opponent's turn, allowing another card to cast during our opponent's turn. Flux Channeler. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Proliferate, we are casting a lot of non-creature spells. So with Flux Channeler, we can proliferate the experience counters that we got with Katara, allowing Katara to draw us even more cards. Laboratory Maniac, with drawing this many cards, we want to make sure we actually have a way to win the game. So having Laboratory Maniac helps us this way when we deck ourselves out. We could just win the game rather than losing the game. Another way to win the game, we have Psychosis Crawler. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses life. So, potentially drawing those 6 cards, 6 damage to each opponent. I could say that would be a healthy chunk of change. And like I said, that's a pretty low amount with this deck. Uh, so, maybe you draw 12 damage to each opponent. That may be enough to win the game. Talran, Sky Summoner. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake with flying. We're casting a lot of instants and sorceries. That means a lot of drakes. Which means a lot of stuff to protect us because people may be swinging for us. Dasa's Oracle. We're drawing a lot of cards. I tend not to like to run Dasa's Oracle in too many decks, but just when you're drawing this many cards, tends to be worth it. Drumming Bird. I'm going to proliferate our experience counters. Maybe some other counters while we're at it, but tends to just be experience counters. Triskaidekavile. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. Pay 4 mana to draw a card. I mean, if you could manage to get this to stay on the board with how many counter spells we have, it may not be the most difficult to do. And with how many cards are drawing off Katara, 13 cards isn't that hard to get. Maybe it'll win the game with Triskaidekavile win. 20 Toad, another alternate win con. Whenever 20 Toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 more counters on it or 20 more cards in your hand. So if we get those 20 counters, 20 experience counters with Katara, getting those 20 draw power, 20 cards into our hand with 20 Toad, it could potentially be a win con for us. Wave Break Hippocamp. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card, allowing us to keep on storming during our opponent's turn. Because Katara doesn't care if it's the first one you cast during each of our opponent's turn, she just cares that you cast them during our opponent's turn. For our enchantments, we have Inexorable Time. Another thing to proliferate our experience counters, making sure that we could, get more and more cards to draw. Ominous Seas. Whenever you draw a card, put a foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas. Remove 8 foreshadow counters. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. It's not far from the realm of possibilities with this deck to get 2 8/8 blue Drakes each turn. Not Drakes. Octopus. Krakens. Each turn. So, see what we could do. Because we'll get to instants last because there's 34 of those and only 5 sorceries. But contentious plan, a little bit of draw power, gives us that proliferation while we're at it. Both abilities we like to see. Ponder, just cheap little spell that we can cast during our turn. Look at the top cards of our deck, see what we want them, leave in our hand so that we could have stuff to cast for our opponent's turn. Making sure we have stuff to cast. Preordain, scry 2, draw a card. Once again, another way to get a little bit of hand control going for ourselves. That little bit of draw power. Making sure we're not gonna, keep going into our lands. Solve the equation. Way to get our instant sorceries from our deck into our hand to make sure that we have the stuff we want to cast and make sure we can cast it. Then Tezzer's Gambit. Draw 2 cards, then proliferate, getting more experience counters, meaning more draw power. And then Sink into Stupor. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. That's an instant speed. It's 3 mana. Not a bad trade-off. For our instance, we have 34 of them, so potentially 34 experience counters with Katara. Potentially more because we have that couple cards with Flash. Aetherize, turn all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. It's not always the most useful, but still, getting a little bit of board away for your opponent who's attacking you, it could be worth it. You can make sure that you don't get targeted. No offer you can't refuse. Like I said, we have a lot of counter spells in this deck. So this is just one of them, and Arcane Denial is the second one. These are both instants we cast during our opponent's turn while they're trying to do their big plays, allowing us some experience counters so we can draw cards. Brainstorm, another way to control what's in our hand to make sure we have stuff to cast during our opponent's turn. This time we could do our instant speed to make sure that we could cast it during our opponent's turn, getting those experience counters. Consider, another way to surveil, draw a card, control what's in our hand, make sure we don't keep just drawing into lands, because that could be quite harmful to this deck if you get flooded. Consult the star charts. Look at the top X cards of your library where X the number of lands you control, potentially up to 36. We do also have Gemstone Caverns in here. Spells kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand. If it wasn't kicked, you get 1 of them. The rest on the bottom. But still, getting the card you need could be worth it. Counterspell for another counterspell. Delay. Another counter spell. Spell is counter spell, exile with 3 time counters on it. Instead putting it into its owner's graveyard. Doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Dispel for another counter spell. Divert Disaster for another counter spell. It can be countered itself if they have the 2 mana to do it. And a lander token, sometimes worth it. Evacuation. Return all creatures to their owner's hand, making it so that our opponents have to cast their stuff again. Meanwhile, if we cast our stuff again, that's fine with us most times. Experimental Augury, another way to proliferate our experience counters. And, this one does proliferate. I thought I didn't see proliferate there for a second. And another way to essentially brainstorm. Just for 1 mana more. Flu Storm, another way to counter spells. Storm off with this one, because, you can storm off during your opponent's turn. What's the harm there? Frantic Search, it's just a free spell to cast during our opponent's turn. We get to draw 2, discard 2, untap 3 lands, get this back, all the mana back we spent to cast it, casting more stuff during our opponent's turn, discarding those lands while we're at it. High Tide, get a lot of mana during our opponent's turn, so we can storm off during their turn. Into the Floodmaw, a good blink spell, nope, not blink, bounce spell, so we can get rid of our opponent's stuff. Mana Drain, a way to make sure we get plenty of mana. Oh, we do get it during our next main phase, is the only thing. So we do get to use it for all that stuff that we drew off Katara. Another Set's Reversal for another. Oh, copy. Yep. Basically counter spell. So you may choose new targets for that copy. And you return the original to its owner's hand. And, pretty good ability there for you. Negate for another counter spell. Opt, another way to control what we have in our hand. And just another cheap spell, storm off during our opponent's turn. Peek, look at target player's hand, draw a card. Hand knowledge is sometimes important, but still, 1 mana draws a card is even more important. Pongify for some removal. Prologue to Phyresis. We are proliferating a little bit, so we may as well get some poison counters onto our opponents, because who doesn't like a good game of Toxic? Rapid Hybridization for some removal. Reality Shift for some more removal. Rejecting Perfection for some proliferation, along with some counterspell. Rewind for more counterspells, along with getting all that mana back in order to do it again. Serum Snare, more counters, more bounce, along with more proliferation. Slip out the back, a way to make sure you protect cards like Archer's Skedacophile, or maybe Katara herself, in order to make sure that we keep our win cons on the board. Snap, another free spell essentially, untapping those 2 lands, allowing us to get more experience counters. Steady Progress, another way to proliferate, and another way to draw a card. I like both those things. Strict Serenade and Swan Song for more counter spells, and then Unwind for another counter spell while we're down here. Then we have Otawara, which we could channel, discarding it. Mystic Sanctuary, Islands, Hydroelectric Specimen for Spell Flash. We're going to just have useful for land, so. But that's the deck there. If you guys liked the video, make sure you like the video. If you want to see more like this, subscribe so you can stay tuned for future videos. But either way, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the day.